Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Karl Elliott from London, UK. How are you doing, Karl?
Yeah, not doing bad, Mark. Yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day. So Karl, are you from London originally?
No, I moved down to London in 2019, so 5 years ago.
Okay.
I my story goes back a bit further than that because I met my wife to be. We're getting married in a few months.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And when meeting her, it was 2 years into my sobriety.
Okay.
So yeah, we started dating for a couple of years, and then I took the plunge to move from a little village that I lived in just outside Leeds in the
Okay.
UK,
Okay.
and I moved down here then. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, big change for me.
Yeah. So what were you doing up where at Leeds? What were you doing up there? Is that where you grew up then?
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
born and bred Leeds, Yorkshireman type,
Okay.
and yeah, so I grew up in a tiny little village just outside of quite a big city called Leeds, and it were a lovely little village. Like
Hmm.
everybody knew everybody. We all grew up,
I can relate.
type of thing. It were freedom. You know,
Hmm.
there was so much freedom back then in the 80s and 90s. Um, you had friends growing up that were 4 or 5 years older than you.
Okay.
Um, but everybody hung around and stayed together at the same thing because we were all part of this little village. And during that, that's when like my problems really started to take hold
Okay.
at a teenager life. So I started drinking alcohol, experimenting with it when I was 13 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and that were easy because we had peers that were 4 or 5 years older than us, so they could go to the shops,
Oh yeah.
buy the alcohol for us, and
No,
we
that
could sit
goes.
around with them
Yeah.
and feel like adults at 13 year old.
You exactly. You want to at 13-year-olds. You want to feel like adults. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really where like it started in my journey as to becoming a drinker.
Okay.
Right then, I had, like I say, we had a happy childhood. We
Okay.
were good. I
Good.
never came from a rich family. The place where we lived was not rich.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we just everybody had each other's backs.
Which is worth a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and it was nice then. It was nice. It was nice as young kids, but the problem really arose that when I first started with my first job,
Okay.
um, I started doing this thing called graphic design,
Okay.
and on my first day there, I got introduced to this guy in this department, and later down the line, he started to say to me, "Oh, look, I go to a pub on a
Hmm.
lunchtime.
Right.
Would you do you want to join me?"
Sure.
So, like, 17-year-old lad. Oh yeah,
You're
this is all
definitely going
right.
to say yes at that age, especially yes.
We get to go to a pub at
Yeah.
lunchtime.
Yeah. Sounds
Oh,
like
this
a
is
great
brilliant.
deal. Yeah.
So that's how it started really. With him, I'd go to the pub with him on lunchtime, and he was one of these people who like to play the slot machines
Okay.
and gamble quite a bit. And I'd take my lunch break as being going there and have a bite to eat,
Sure.
and I'd have a pint of lager because he was buying a pint of lager as well.
Right.
And I'd watch him play these slot machines. Skip forward to the age of 21 when I left that company and got out of that industry because I felt I was burnt out.
Okay.
I were going to the same pub with the same guy doing the same stuff, but my tolerance level of my alcohol
Oh yeah, it was.
had gone up. So
Yep.
within 4 years, I'd gone from having 1 pint at lunchtime to having 3 pints at lunchtime. I could just about get 3 pints of lager down me before lunchtime. And I think that's where my
Wow.
downfall came within the work,
Yep.
because I was going back to work, I was feeling a bit groggy, a bit lightheaded.
I could see that. Yeah.
It was a stressful environment, and yeah, I think all that compounded, and I thought it was the work, but it isn't until later down in life,
Right.
to where I got to where I've started looking back and reflecting on it, that it probably wasn't the work itself. It was how I was treating it.
Yep.
And around that time as well, at 21, because I was feeling a little bit fuzzy headed in the afternoon from having a drink, I'd started adding going to the pub with some other people on an evening.
Oh wow.
So I were having another 4 or 5 pints on an evening.
Wow.
And yeah, I think that started to become my
Oh,
downward spiral.
See that. Yeah, that I could definitely see that because that's a lot of you were consuming a lot of alcohol there in a day's time. Yeah.
Yeah, at such a young age, and it was daily. It was daily drinking.
Wow.
I wasn't taking a break. So then on a weekend, you were going and compounding that even more. So I'd be having a Friday night session where 5 pints would probably turn into 7 or 8 pints of lager,
Okay.
and then Saturday drinking session again, Sunday drinking session, Monday, and it never stopped. I never had a break of alcohol.
Wow.
Once I'd
Oh wow.
started on it, that's how it out cycle went.
Oh yeah, that is definitely a downward spiral. So after you got to that point, what was next after that? After you were consuming that much alcohol, I mean, daily.
It got worse after I left the job,
Okay. Okay.
because I had nothing then. Um, and I burnt my bridges with the people that I used to see in that
Okay.
job. I started labouring
Okay.
on building sites, doing a bit of roofing, a bit of joinery work, a bit of plasterboarding, and
Right. Right.
just in and out of jobs whenever people needed it. And I moved back to my little village, where there was a local pub, and I befriended one of my old friends.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I didn't know this journey was going to happen for me, but we ended up being, we were like Cagney and Lacey or Bonnie and Clyde,
Okay. Okay. That says it. That definitely says a lot. Yeah.
everywhere we went, it was the two of us.
Okay.
And me and him would always organise that as soon as whatever work it was we finished, we'd be meeting at between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock on an evening
Okay.
in that pub, and we'd be there till 9, 10 o'clock at night
Wow. A lot of
drinking.
hours in. Wow. Okay. Definitely a lot.
And like we just continued on that spiral. It were almost it were a bromance in a
Okay.
way.
Okay.
And like I say, whenever I walked into a pub, if he wasn't with me, there'd always be questions as to where
I bet.
he was,
Where's your yep.
because everybody related us two as being the people. And
Yeah.
I never realised it until I quit drinking in 2016, that we were like each other's crutch.
Yeah. Enablers. You enabled each other to continue, yeah.
So going back like through his 20s, the height of where we were, really, I think, 20s and my early 30s. Me and him we never had relationships, either of us, or if we had a relationship, we'd always in some way jeopardize it for the other person.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it were almost like we couldn't let each other go.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody got into a relationship, it'd last for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but
it never long term then. Okay.
never long term. And in that time, we'd see as peers, we'd see other people that we used to friends and stuff like that. They'd go on, they'd be getting married, they'd be having children, and
Right.
and everything that you normally do. And so that group of us that were all friends started to whittle down.
I bet. Yeah, especially at that age. Yes.
Yeah. And it really did leave it when I were about 28, 29 years old. Like, it whittled itself down to it just being me and him. I remember a funny story.
Okay.
One Christmas, I think, and we were walking up to the pub.
Okay.
So every night we'd go out drinking together, and then on a Saturday and a Sunday, it'd either be a phone call, text message, or I'd get woken by him knocking on my parents' door.
Uh-huh.
And it'd be like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it'd be pub's opening soon. Come on, we need to start making a walk up there. So we were always in the pub at
you opened it up, yeah.
early doors. Yeah, we opened it up, we cracked it open, and sometimes we actually were knocking landlady up and saying, "Look, can you open it up a bit earlier?"
Oh wow. Okay.
So back to the story. We were walking up this lane one day up to the pub as we would normally do everything, and we looked at each other and we said, "Do you think when we're in the 70s and 80s, it'll still be just us two that are walking up here?"
Yeah.
Because at that time, that's just how it felt. There were only us two. There were only us two left.
Wow.
And
so what did you answer to that?
I jokingly said, "Yeah, I could see it still being there. I could see you still doing it." Because we just didn't have anything else. As life revolved around getting up, going to work on a weekday, finishing work, and then both meeting up in the.
You just had your every day was okay,
and that's how it was. It was like rinse and repeat, and it was a structure. It was an habit that we had all the way through.
Yeah. So, what was the thing that changed that finally?
I met somebody in 2011.
Okay.
And it was a bit of a on-off type relationship as it was. And then in January 2012,
okay,
we woke up and my partner at the time then was complaining of like stomach pains.
Oh, okay.
And a few weeks previous to that, she had a cyst detected on a stomach.
Okay.
So we just thought it was that.
Sure.
And I said to her, I said, don't go into work today. Speak to your mum and let me know how it goes.
Right.
So I got up and I went to work as I would normally. And throughout the day, I was getting information feeding back to me. She said that she'd been to doctors. They thought it were constipation. They'd give her some medication to help relieve that.
Right.
And then around about 2:00 in the afternoon, she says, "I'm on the bathroom floor," and in absolute agony
Wow.
and pain. And
Wow.
my mum's called an ambulance. So I says, well, I'm not far off finishing work. I'm going to go to the gym because
Mm-hmm.
I'd started to try and get myself into a bit of shape.
Cool.
I I went to the gym, and I got home, and I had 3 missed calls from my mum,
Oh
and
boy.
so I frantically
Yeah.
phoning
Right.
back,
Yeah.
and I managed to get hold of her, and she says, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at home," but I don't think she heard that. Can you sit down? And I went, yeah.
Uh-oh.
And
Yeah.
in the bedroom itself, like thinking, I obviously I was fearing worst.
Right.
And she just turned around to me and she went, "I'm holding your baby girl in my arms." And I went, "What? I'm having a baby girl." She's like, "No, I'm holding your baby girl in my arms."
Whoa.
And I went,
Yeah. Whoa.
"Wait,
Yeah, that would be.
what?"
Uh,
And she just said to me, she said, "Hang on there, my husband's coming to pick you up. Stay in pub." And I went, "No, I'm not in pub." I said, I'm at home." That's how bad it was. Everybody just always thought that I were in pub.
uh,
Um, he came and picked me up. First thing that I did, bottom of the stairs where I lived, there was always had cans of lager down there.
okay. Okay.
I grabbed one of them, opened it up just as door were knocking, and door opened. He says, "I don't think you'll need that." And I said, "I think I do."
Uh-huh.
Started swallowing that and rushed down to the hospital, and there it was. Like, never even knew that I was going to be a father, and I got this amazing daughter.
What a surprise. Yeah, what a gift. So,
It was, yeah, and then that became tough because I decided then to move in full time with my partners and
right.
her parents because she were a lot younger than me.
Okay.
Um, we we tried it. Got 14 months in, and there were just constant arguments. There were accusations about certain things, and
Okay.
I, I just felt I can't be, in this.
Right. Right.
And just around that same time, my partner had not been out on her own with the friends for a very long time, and I said to her, I said, "Look, I said you need to go out." I said, "You
Mm-hmm.
can't just always be a mum."
Right.
So I told her she arranged this night out. She went out with her friends. She
Okay.
jumped. She bumped into. She went to our local pub, my local pub,
Okay.
and she she bumped into my best mate, my
Ah,
crutch, and
okay.
he turned round to her. I don't know if his story is 100% factual,
Okay.
because I don't think I ever got the right answers. But
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd been secretly squirreling money away to try and put a deposit down on the house so that we could move out of the family home because it was just too. I felt like a child in there, and I
I
didn't,
can.
and I felt, well, now I were supposed to be an adult and a parent, so I
Right.
wanted to
Right.
do that. So I was squirreling
Exactly.
money away to try and get a house, and my best mate subsequently turned around to my partner and told her that I was doing all this squirreling money away.
Oh.
Um, and the story goes that apparently she said, "I'll never move out with him." I took
Hmm.
that as being that she didn't love me.
Yeah.
There were no feelings there, and because of everything else on top of it, I just thought I'm not willing to bring a child up in a non-loving relationship.
Yeah.
Uh, my brother used to watch a hell of a lot of Jeremy Kyle,
Okay.
like guy on the TV.
Uh-huh.
And I just remember seeing snippets of that show,
Right.
and one of the things that really stood out for me was parents that were in unhealthy relationships. He always used to say, "For the sake of your children,
Yeah.
you both need to be apart."
Yeah.
and that resonated with me and stuck with me.
Okay.
So I packed my bags and I walked out. My daughter was 14 months old, and
Wow.
that's really then when my drinking went to its worst point.
Okay.
I really started to self-destruct. I obviously felt that I felt a lot of rejection from it.
I can see that.
I felt betrayed by my best mate at the time
I
because
understand that too. Wow.
he'd said something that I told him confidentially. And I just really self-destruct button. So this is 2013.
Okay.
I started using Class A drugs, which had always been around me. Even when I was 13, 14 year old, there were an old
Availability.
tennis hall,
Yep.
like a prefab type building, and it was derelict in some way. The tennis courts never got used, so this building was always open and available. And I used to see people that were slightly older than me taking heroin and smack and taking LSDs and stuff like that.
Wow.
It's like mid-90s, and I never went anywhere near it at that point. I don't know, something in me was strong enough as a young age to do it, but I had this sense of everything were over for me, really, and I just didn't mind what I was putting in my body, even though I had a beautiful daughter. I couldn't see that at the time. And
you just didn't have that reason to live. You just really lost all that.
I didn't feel I did. It was like there was just no self-respect for me. Like at that time, I'd come off of working on building sites and stuff, and I'd got a job as a van driver.
Okay.
And I'd worked my way up, and I got my HGV license, so I was driving 26-ton lorries up and down
Okay.
the country, and I was doing all this while still consuming 12 to 14 pints a night.
Oh my
lager.
gosh.
And it really just did sit heavy on me for those three years, 2013 through 2016. How I just didn't care.
Yeah.
People could see it in me. They were.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like my dear dad, he's 84-year-old, and I remember he used to turn around to me. He used to say, like, he'd drop me off at the pub on a weekend sometimes if I didn't walk up, and he'd say, "Don't drink as much as what you did last night." And it was almost like a red rag to a bull.
I can see that.
I then went to the pub and thought, I'm going to have a little bit more and push these boundaries.
Yep.
And yeah, my relationship with my best mate really started to go a bit. I started. We're still drunk in the same pub, but I started to move myself away from. There were 2 rooms in this pub. In like a traditional British pub, you've got like the class is a tap room, which is your trade guys, workers, and stuff like that. That's where they'd go and stand. And then you'd have what they call the best room, which is where families would sit and stuff like that.
Really? Okay.
And this pub had turned into a bit of a gastro pub, like an eatery. So I used to go and sit in the best room and start chatting to other people. My drinking never slowed down, and stuff that I was doing never slowed down. But I just used to chat to these people. I think I was starting to pull myself away from my best mate.
Right.
And then around 2015, I took it one step further. So I started drinking in different pubs to him.
Okay, I can see that.
um, because I think the trust had gone, and also his drinking had increased like mine,
Okay,
but his drug use that was already worse than mine
right.
anyway really started to take
Oh,
over. He
okay.
was,
That's too bad.
yeah, he could wake up on a morning and have a drink, whereas I was totally different. I got up and I went to work and that. So
Thankfully, yeah.
um, yeah, I always had work at the heart of me. It
Okay,
was like a key. It was like a core value. I think
right.
like now I'm a coach. I do a lot of like self development and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have your core values, and I think work
Amen. You do,
was
yes.
installed into me at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So that were a core value. So I never let people down at work. Even
Good.
though I was drinking like I was drinking,
Right.
I could I could always get myself out of bed at 5 o'clock on the morning and go out and do a full day's work.
Very good. Yeah.
Um, and then I'd I'd obviously have my daughter part time. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate this phrase, and it's horrible as a caption or whatever however you might want to put it.
Okay.
For like, I were a part time dad, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a phrase that I absolutely hate. I don't like part time dad because
Yeah.
I'm always dad, but
You are, yes.
it's that thing of you don't have them all the time, so you get classed
Mm-hmm.
as being a part time dad.
Yep.
And in fairness, I don't even think I want a dad
Mm-hmm.
in that period,
Mm-hmm.
and that's hard to. That's hard to think about now,
Yeah.
and I've reflected a lot on my past. I don't. I will never present, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have. I'd. I'd carry on drinking as I
Okay.
was. Like I say, I were on this self destruct button from
Mm-hmm.
from 2013, and my daughter had come and sleep over. I got
Okay.
allowances. Once
Okay.
once you can prove yourself, then you can start having a little bit more, and and
Sure.
and that
Sure.
and that's how it worked. And I worked my way up to that. And my daughter had come and sleep over,
Mm-hmm.
so I put a limit on myself. When I have my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
drink,
Sure.
and that's how I used to do it. So I'd have my daughter and I wouldn't drink, but as soon as she went to bed, I'd always have to have something. I'd have to have a couple of cans of lager just to.
Okay.
I had to keep ticking over with it. Um, but if, for instance, I had her on a Saturday through day, um, where she hadn't slept over, and I'd gone and picked her up,
Okay.
I'd always go and sneak in a couple of drinks
Mm-hmm.
just before.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that wasn't going to tip me over edge, and I was still
Mm-hmm.
in full control of myself.
Right.
But I'd have a couple of cheeky drinks just before. But because of everything that we're consuming throughout the week, when my daughter were there, I'd be laid on couch and
Okay.
I'd be just I'd be just like a zombie. I would just like wouldn't be I wouldn't be present. I wasn't there. And if she came down on a Saturday through the day, it'd be probably from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. And I can still see it now. I'd be laid on the couch and there's a clock directly in front of me,
Right.
and I can see myself watching hours tick by
Really? Okay. Wow.
until it got to 5 o'clock when I could take her home. Then I could go back to the pub and carry on what my life was.
Wow.
And they call it a simple term. You just clock watching when you with parent from counselling that I've had previously. it's just clock watching, waiting for time to go, because you need that.
Yeah.
You need to get back to what your reality is, and that's what my reality was.
Yep.
I were a drinker. That was my tag.
Yeah.
I were a bloody good drinker, Mark.
Mm.
You know.
Yep. Yep.
So if we skip forward a little bit now, we started in 2016, and
Okay.
I've this downward spiral's really taken into me. I were aware that I wasn't being present. I were getting told by siblings that I wasn't being present when my daughter were around, and
Okay.
stuff like that. You're just on your phone, or you laid on sofa, or whatever, and she's doing whatever she's doing. So little seeds were starting to get dropped into my head.
Right.
I started pulling myself away from my best mate, drinking in other bars. And I decided to do dry January, which is just a small challenge that like taking a break from alcohol for 30 days in January.
Right.
So I decided that I was going to try that. So January 2016, I take a break from alcohol for 30 days. I count down the clock.
I bet. I was wondering how hard is that really hard to do?
Yeah,
I would think it would be.
In fairness, it got easier as it went on.
Sure. Okay.
So as I were getting to like week 3, it actually wasn't too bad. But then obviously end of January comes, and you're like, right, I can turn switch back on, and here we go. We're fired up again. And I just went crazy. But I think there were a couple of turning points in that 2016 period.
Okay.
Leading up to me stopping drinking. And I put them down to being 3 or 4 things. I'd realised that I could cut the alcohol off, as long as I cut the supply, and I could do it. I'd done a month without having drink.
Exactly.
In the pub that I drunk in with my best mate, in the best room there was a seat.
Okay.
And there always used to be an old man that'd sit on that seat, and that was his seat. He'd sit there all day. And God bless him, he passed away quite a few years ago. But the next drunken person, the next alcoholic, for instance, took that mantle over.
Okay.
So he'd always be in the pub, and he'd sit on that seat.
Okay.
And I think I saw like a vision of that's where I were going to end up, and that were going to be my seat.
Wow.
And I thought, I don't really want that for my daughter.
Right.
And in some of the other pubs that I used to go and drink in, I found one pub that were very, very close to work, so that meant I could get to it as quick as I could straight after I finished work. So I'd start drinking in there, and this were a much bigger pub.
Okay.
But I remember one day looking around, and there were a guy in his mid to late 40s, another guy in his 60s, and another guy in, I think he'll have been about 80, something like that. They were all sat on separate tables, and they were all like loner drinkers. And then I looked at myself in a way and went, oh, I'm a loner drinker now. I've taken myself away from my best mate. I've taken myself away from the group.
Right.
And I'm now on my own, and I'm drinking alone on my own. And I think I saw the generations of me going forward. Am I going to be this loner drinker?
Yeah.
So So I had them two things playing on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
They really got me thinking. And then I had my daughter, how I'd been with my daughter, so I had them seeds going through my head as well. So I had them thoughts. I'd watched a TV show by a British producer called Louis Theroux,
Okay.
and that was called Drinking to Oblivion.
Oh
And
wow.
that showed like the real effects of alcohol and
Right. Right.
alcoholism and stuff. So I'd seen that, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember I won't say it were an epiphany moment, but it certainly did feel like that when I set off on my daily routine in my lorry, all set
Right.
up,
Right.
heading down motorway, and I remember exactly whereabouts it was, which stretch of motorway and which area it were in. That
Right.
this thought came into my head that if one of these cars that's driving past me, beside me, accidentally hits me or clips me through no
Yep.
fault of their own or maybe no fault of mine,
Right.
there's going to be a police investigation. There's going to be police turn up because it's a road traffic accident on a motorway.
Yep.
I know myself. I'm at least 3 to 4 times over the drink
Oh
drive
wow.
limit
Wow.
because of
Okay.
what I consumed the previous night.
Right.
That's it's a statutory thing for a breath test to be done
Yeah.
straight away on scene. There's a chance. Well, definitely going to lose my license.
Right. Yeah. At the
That means
least.
losing my
Yeah.
job.
Yep.
That means losing possible custody of my daughter.
Yeah.
You don't know how that's going to go.
Right.
There may end up being a bit of jail time because of how
Could be.
much
Yeah.
over the limit you are.
Yep.
And I thought I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know where to go. And that got me thinking, because like straight away into your head comes Alcoholics Anonymous, AA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
But I didn't feel like I were an alcoholic. I'm sat in my lorry. I'm driving up and down motorway. I can get up at 4:30 on the
Right.
morning and
Yeah.
get out to work.
You're doing
I,
you're functioning. Yeah. You're doing your
yeah.
daily. Yeah. So.
So I didn't feel like I were an alcoholic. So I thought that's not a route that I want to go down. Like I've got no quarrels with it, but
Right.
I don't feel like me standing up in a room and saying I'm an alcoholic is actually what I am. So
Right.
I don't feel comfortable in doing that. So that night, when I went back to my pub straight after I finished work, I got on my phone, and as you do, you start scrolling down things, thinking,
Right.
I thought, surely there's somebody out there in this world that's a little bit like me, that used to drink a little bit too much, that's
Right. Right.
changed their life.
Right.
And 2016, it was the height of people doing blogging and stuff like, because that was the craze at the time.
Oh
People
yes.
doing
Yes.
blogging.
Yes.
I thought there's got to be something. And I go down the list, and 5 or 6 lines down or whatever, I see this thing with a PDF, free PDF thing. So I clicked on it and I opened it up
Okay.
and I started reading it. And it were about these 2 guys from the city in London that had decided to take a break from alcohol and found that taking a break from alcohol, they then decided to start running. The life's changed. They lost a bit of weight. Well,
Right. Right.
I stopped going to the gym at the time. I'd put a lot of weight back on, and I were on self-destruct. I thought, this sounds like almost like a magic pill, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought I might give this a go.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that had done it were a guy called Andy Ramage. He's like now in the UK, he's quite famous for doing the alcohol free, but back then
Okay.
he was a little known nobody who'd
Uh-huh.
just written a PDF.
Right, right.
And I read this PDF. I had a pint in my hand. I'd got about halfway through it, and I got about halfway through PDF at the same
Uh-huh.
time. And I put the pint down, and I went home and I read through the rest of it. I
Okay.
then
Awesome.
signed up.
Awesome.
So the premise of what they had was it's a 30-day challenge to take a break from alcohol,
Okay.
a 60-day challenge, 90-day challenge to take a break from alcohol, or take a year's break from alcohol.
Okay.
So bear in mind, January I'd just done a month's break, so I
Right,
thought,
right.
well, I can do that. So I don't need a t-shirt for that.
Uh-huh.
I thought I'll do the 90-day break from alcohol.
Okay.
And at that time, because they were just starting up, they had merchandise that they were trying to sell to help promote it and stuff
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, right.
So two of the things that they had were a 90-day t-shirt and a 1-year t-shirt.
Okay.
I thought, to give me inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
it's £25 that I don't really have, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Just yeah.
let's see if I can do it. So
Gotta do
I
it. Yeah.
said, right, I'm going to buy the 90-day t-shirt. So I let them know. I said, look, I want to stop drinking. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
said. I
Mm-hmm.
remember saying it. I'd had enough at that point.
Okay.
But I'd had that conversation in my head when I was driving down the motorway. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I needed to stop it.
Yeah.
I didn't want my daughter growing up and her
Right.
dad just being known
Yeah.
a drunk or
Yeah.
not really being part of her life.
Yeah.
She just turned 4-year-old at the time, and I thought it was probably the best time to make some sort of
Yep.
change.
Yep.
And so I signed up. I sent off for the t-shirt, and I'd obviously said like I really want to stop drinking full time. I want to give it a go, but I think I
Right.
can do. I think I can do 90 days.
Right.
Package comes in post.
Mm-hmm.
You open it up. There's a letter in it.
Okay.
Hi Carl, welcome to the group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Please find inside your t-shirt for 90 days.
Okay.
But you'll also find that we've packed a second t-shirt, and it's the 1-year t-shirt.
Wow.
And we've done that because we believe that you can do it.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that.
And it was like the first time
Mm-hmm.
in my life
Mm-hmm.
that I can really remember where somebody actually said that they believe in me.
Right.
And it was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding myself together because I'm on this. I usually don't hold myself together when I'm telling this, but it was so powerful knowing that somebody finally believed in you.
Yeah. That's so important. Yeah.
I'd had 15 years, and God bless my best mate. I've lost all contact with him and stuff like that now. But
Mm-hmm.
for 15 years, he used to put me down, and I never realised what it was
Mm-hmm.
until I were out of it. And
Yeah.
I've told the story to you how the relationships that we both used to have, we used to jeopardize. It were almost like
Yep.
we were pulling each other back into that drink.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We needed each other to validate why we were drinking, and he used to put me down so that I didn't go and walk away from him.
Right.
And it's only through like I say, like the self-development that I've done on myself, being that I've been able to realize that in these few years. So from being kicked so many times over those 15 years, for somebody finally to say, "We believe in you,"
Yeah.
it was so powerful.
Very much. Yes.
And I joined their Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
It was very early. It was in the very, very early days of this group that they set up. And when I joined, there were probably only a very handful of people that had decided to give drinking up for a challenge for 30 days, 90 days.
Okay.
But for some reason, we all looked after each other, and we ended up being a community. They ended up being, I think, around about 30 to 40 of us. No, it might not even be that. Around
Okay.
20 of us that really stayed the whole course.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd see somebody getting to 30 days, and you'd pat the back, and then you'd get to 30 days, and they'd be all over you. And then they'd gone to 60 or 90 days or
Right.
6 months.
Right.
And you were chasing them down because you knew you weren't that far behind them. And you were like, I can't let these people down because I am,
Right. Yes.
I am stopped.
Yeah.
And I got to a year being alcohol free.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
And I never thought that in a million years that I could just do it. I could stop it.
Yep.
And it's not just the stopping the alcohol that I think it is when you look at it. It's not just stopping the alcohol that that's a big change. Everything else in life really changes as well.
True. Yeah.
I remember like you had to set a date for stopping drinking.
Right.
And that were how the challenge started. So you'd have a start date. And I remember my start date was the 1st of June 2016.
Okay.
In the UK, the 31st of May is a bank holiday. It's the final. It's one of the bank holidays that we have in the UK. And
Okay.
I remember going to the pub, and it were like, you know, when you're on a diet,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
or
do know that one. Yes.
you're
Yeah.
gonna start a diet.
Yeah. You're gonna
You're
start
like,
tonight, tomorrow.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm off to Krispy Kreme, and I'm off to
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
I'm off
Oh
to
yeah.
McDonald's, and I'm going to have everything that I
Yeah.
don't
Exactly.
I'm not
Yes.
going to be able to eat for next month.
Yep. Yep.
You were like that.
Yep. Do you know that
So
very well?
I'm looking around bar, and I'm picking all these high percentage drinks out, and I'm like, I'm
Right.
having that. And I remember at one point, I just sat there on this stool, and I looked around, and it really started to hit me, and I was like, as from tomorrow, I'm never going to be able to have a drink again. Like I say, I set myself. I put myself on the path for 90 days, but these people believed in me that I could get to a year.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like, if I can get to a year, then yeah.
Yep.
And really, in my
On the road.
in my heart, I wanted to give the drink up, and I knew I needed to give the drink up. I just remember sitting there and looking around, and thinking, all I know is drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I was, what, 30, 35 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So for over 20 years,
Wow.
I'd been consuming alcohol, and for the last 15 of them, I'd been consuming it on a daily basis of at least 12 pints of lager every night.
Wow.
Sometimes like on a weekend, you're pushing that up to 15 pints lager, and it's all I knew.
Yeah, it is.
So when I like sat there on that stool, I'm looking around and thinking, what the hell am I gonna do with my life? Like,
Right. I can understand that thinking. Yeah.
how's it gonna look? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
And so that day comes, the next day comes, and I'm sat with this thought of never having a drink again. And I told it within the group many a times when people used to come to me and say, like, you were drinking that amount of lager every single day, like, how did you stop it?
Mm-hmm.
And like, is it really as brilliant as what you're saying it is by
Mm-hmm.
not drinking?
Mm-hmm.
And I say to him, like, I used to say to him, if I could give you a crystal ball now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sat in that pub and you're having a drink, and that's all that you know. Just like me, then, if someone had given me a crystal ball and said, "This is what your life's going to look like in a year's time,"
Right.
I'd have chewed the hand off for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is. It's everything that you want it to be. It's
Mm-hmm.
it can be
Yes.
anything. It can be
Yes.
anything.
Yes.
But just by cutting that one thing out, the alcohol,
Yep.
the change that's happened in my life now in 8 years, like, I've done stuff in 8 years that I wouldn't have done in 10 times that amount if I was still drinking.
True. True. Yeah.
And it just opens you up.
It
It opens
does.
you up to possibilities. And now it's the fear of it ever going back.
I can understand that fear. I can definitely understand that. That'd be always in the background there. That yeah, backslide.
Yeah, it's the fear of going back. But how we used to, I had a great friend on the community, and they started changing the ways around how people could think about the drinking, and they started getting it to more of like a moderating type thing,
Okay.
and being open to people moderating the drinking. And I remember me and this good friend, we turned around to each other, and we were fuming about it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, we can't moderate. I can't moderate. I turned that switch off on the 1st of January 2016, and
Right.
then I switched it back on in
Right.
February,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I went worse than what I wore in December
Wow.
15.
Wow.
Now I've switched it off on the 1st of June 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back and switch it back on.
Yeah, I can understand that thinking.
And why would I? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So these people that are not promoting it, but almost saying to people that, yeah, you can moderate. There's certain people out there in this world that just simply can't moderate,
They can't. You know, that's true.
and leaving it open like that. It makes it difficult for those people that want to stop, because they'll always think that they can go back to it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm coaching a guy at the moment. and he's the same. Like, well,
Okay.
maybe if I can get it under my belt, I can then in a few months' time have a glass of wine when I'm out having a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, like, why would you want to have a glass of wine
Right.
with a
Yeah.
meal if you've done, say, 3 months without having a drink?
Exactly.
He says, because I'd be able to, wouldn't I? And I'm like, but would you? Because
True.
you're coming to me now saying that very similar to what I am. If you turn that switch off and you're in a training camp, you're disciplined and you're not drinking,
Right.
and you feel better. But as soon as you come out of a training camp, you switch it back on and you then go start binge drinking.
Yep.
Why would you ever switch it back on if you've gone 3
Exactly.
months without having a drink?
True.
And
yeah, very much.
it's making people aware that there's other options. So, like with this guy, we came to the point that the wine is a sweet tasting, so it tastes sweet for him,
Right.
and it's nice to have with a meal. There's other sweet drinks, cranberry juice with lemonade. You know,
Right.
you've got.
Yeah. Yep.
Still looks like a glass of wine if you want to make it look like a glass of wine.
Exactly. Yes.
And then same with him with holiday. It was like, how am I going to go on holiday without having a drink and that? And it's putting them same things into context. Like, I'm a bit of an introvert, and when I stopped drinking, my only way to make sure I didn't fall off the wagon in the early days,
Right.
I had the community, and that really helped me. And I was chasing down everybody's targets.
Right.
But I became a bit of a hermit, and I didn't really want to go into the outside world because I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want any of that temptation.
I can understand that.
I had my sister's wedding in that year in 2016. My brother-in-law tried to put a pint of lager down my neck.
Wow.
On the dance floor.
Nice guy. Jeez. Oh, wow.
It's like if I were an heroin addict, Mark, and I'd got myself clean, somebody won't try and put a needle in my arm to get me back.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially not a family member, you know?
Exactly right, yes.
So why do we feel that alcohol has to be something that everybody does?
Yeah.
And I don't think it does.
Yeah, I don't think it does either, but it's a very good thing. And I hear what you say. You know, a lot of people, especially with alcohol, they don't seem to think that, you know, it's just something you do at like the holidays, or, you know, just have one drink or a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I think that is very good to think about. So, so Karl, how did you get to coaching? You were talking about you were coaching. How did you get to that point?
That come off at back. So this PDF that was written by Andy Ramage back in 2015 that went online, which I credit the guy with, and I say this to him when I see him, like, you saved my life that day, you know? But not only saved my life, actually showed me what life's all about.
Yes.
I've done that myself. Yeah, he hasn't been every step of the way and been giving me all this stuff, but he showed me the light and showed me what was possible, and
yes,
that kicked me on, and I've done that, and like I said, I went searching for some help in 2016.
Okay,
and this PDF, out of the blue, spoke to me. It came off the page to me, and it spoke to me, and it felt like I'm that person.
Yeah, directed right at you. Yeah.
yeah, it's talking to me in a way.
Yep.
And Andy's always then continued to run business. So I've always get emails from him, like a newsletter thing.
Right.
Carried on from that 2016 period, and you get them. I get them every single day, or every 2 or 3 a week, and
Okay.
never look at them because, like, I've come away from that, and
Mhm.
then one day, it flashed up on my phone for a newsletter, and I
Mhm.
clicked on it. I don't know
Right.
why,
Mm.
I just clicked on it, and
Yep.
it said, and it said, fancy learning how to be a coach.
Uh-huh.
Get trained by me, Andy, to become a coach. Course is starting in January.
Right.
Well, this year, 2024, we decided to take a year out, me and my partner,
Okay.
and a bit of self-development for ourselves and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And it were almost like this. Again, this email was speaking to me. You need to do this
Mhm.
course,
Yes.
and I thought, coaching though.
Yeah, I can understand that thought process. Yes.
I, coaching to me were a bit woo-woo. It's like
Yep. Oh, yes. I know what you mean there too.
it. It's Tony Robbins, you know.
Yeah.
It's all that sort
Exactly.
of stuff.
Yes.
Like, I'm not. That's not me.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a bit skeptical, and I ran it past my partner, and she says,
Mhm.
"You should do it." And I went, "Well, actually, I
Mhm.
thought it'd be good for you." And she was
Oh,
like,
uh-huh.
"No, all right, I'll have a think about it." So she had to think about it anyway. Long story short, January comes,
Uh-huh.
just before the course starts, and I request a call with Andy, and I said
Sure.
to him, "Look, like, what's this coaching all about?" I said,
Mhm.
Me and Claire are interested a little bit, but we don't really know what it is.
Right.
Is there any money in it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
that's the thing. And he says to me, he says, you know what, coaching's on the up. He says it's
It is.
lots of people are having it
Oh,
nowadays,
yes.
and it's
Yes.
and subsequently, like, I watched the Tony Robbins thing just this weekend,
Okay.
and it was saying where it's getting into $1 trillion
Oh, yeah. It's definitely
yearly business.
growing exponentially. Yes.
Um, so just like in 2016 with his PDF, I took that plunge and joined the course,
Awesome.
and we just finished it yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Cool.
we done 6 months training, and it's leapfrogged us another 10 years, I think,
Mhm.
with the self-development side of it. And
It will do that. Yes.
funny enough, like, we spoke a couple of weeks back, and we were talking about the
Mhm.
doing the podcast together,
Right.
and you said to me, you says, like, I think you've got something to speak about, Carl. I think
You
your voice
do.
needs to be
Oh,
heard
you definitely do.
a little bit further than your
Oh,
local
yes.
community type. And
Yes. Amen. Yes.
yeah, I came away and I thought about that. And yesterday, the last day was based on marketing within
Right.
the coaching course, and um, one of the sections were public speaking.
Mhm.
So as you do on a Zoom call, I raised my hand and I'm like,
Right.
I thought about what you've been saying.
Mhm.
I says,
Mhm.
like, this public speaking, Andy, like, how do you get into it?
Mhm. Yep.
And he says, well, you just have to knock on a few doors. He says, and then he spoke about Tony Robbins, how he'd gone to see Jim Rohn, and
Right. Yeah.
Jim Rohn used to do one conference every 3 months, and Tony
Right.
Robbins says, I'm going to do one conference every week, and that means that I'll be 10
Uh-huh.
years ahead of you by
Uh-huh.
next year.
Right.
And I like, oh yeah, I said, I've seen that. I remember that. And then he just turned around to me out of blue and he says, "We've got Dry Fest on Saturday. You're coming along to it. Why don't you speak on there?"
That
And I
is
went,
fast. Yeah, that was what
"What?"
I would have done too. Yeah. It's
And I was like,
like, whoa.
I've done public speaking on one occasion, I think, or two occasions.
Uh-huh.
The last one was my brother's wedding
Right?
in 2017, 2018, and I can't remember how nervous I was there or all, and I was like,
Mm.
how can I get up on stage and do that? So to be continued, Mark.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will find
Yes.
out whether I
Ah,
decide to take the plunge or not.
you will. You'll be awesome. You will be in like before we started doing the podcast. You're going to be in flow. I vision you on stage. Just you're in your element, and yeah, I look forward to it. To be continued. You're going to be like I said before. You're going to change so many people's lives from your backstory. So everything you've been through and how you went from where you're at to where you are today. Um, so, Carl, before we end the podcast, what is one thing some advice you would give to somebody that is at the stage you were at before, at your worst? What would you say to somebody who's listening to this um, that may potentially help them?
If you don't feel that you're on that range, that spectrum of being alcoholic, you're not waking up on a morning and you're not reaching for a can of or your favorite drink, your favorite alcoholic drink, first thing on the morning, but you're able to get up and you go to work, but you do know that in back of your mind that you're having one too many drinks on an evening or on a weekend or whatever. Seek out somebody like what I did. There's coaches that are out there. I'm not saying myself, but there's coaches all over the world.
Right.
Reach out to them and just question in your own mind
Yes.
what it is, and please just take that break, because the life that you're in right now, you won't want back in 12 months' time, because in 12 months' time you'll be in a totally different place, and so many things will have happened to you
Yes.
that you can wake up on a morning feeling refreshed, possibly decided to start running or start going back to gym again because you've got that energy, and
Yes.
you'll get a zest for life.
Yeah.
And that's what I want other people to get. I want other people to get that zest of life, like that.
Amen.
Not holding on to a drink, because there's more to life than that. And once you put that drink down, you'll find it. You'll find what you're seeking. And and finally, what I would just say is, I were always awful with relationships. I made bad choices in my life, and I would probably, I know I wasn't a very nice person towards people at times. But deep inside me, I am a nice person, and I knew that. So when I did portray a bad side after I'd had a drink, I regretted it. When you take alcohol out of your life, you actually become your authentic self. It's like
You do.
stripping yourself down and stood naked in front of a mirror. There's nothing else. That's it. It's who you are when you're looking at yourself in that mirror. And when people start to see your authentic side, that's really enlightening. and you can grow so much from that.
Yeah.
Uh,
You definitely can. No, I mean that is such a great that's a great way to end the podcast. And Karl, I am so proud of you from where you've come from to where you're at now, and I so believe in what's coming up next. You're gonna blow them away on starting with this stage and continuing on. Uh, I look forward to. Uh, like I said, we were kidding not kidding, but the lamp, your light above you last time we were talking was
yeah,
on, and that's your aura, and it is your aura. You're a beautiful man, and you made me cry. You are going to go so far, man, and we got to do follow up podcasts and keep in touch.
we
Because
will do,
yeah,
Mark. Don't worry.
because
I'm so grateful for you
thank
for
you.
reaching out to me and taking your
My
time
pleasure.
to chat to me today.
Yeah. No, it was all my pleasure, and thank you for being a guest on the podcast. And
Yeah.
I look forward to the next podcast for everything that you've gone. I think
Well,
things are going to really start speeding up now. I think that things are
I'll
going
be
to get
married.
really
I'll be
good for
married
you.
then.
Yep, awesome. So I mean, things are going to life's going to get very good for you. Very, very good. I can, yeah, I can feel it and see it and just everything. So on that, Karl, thank you.
Thank
For
you, Mark.
joining us on the podcast. And you take care. Thanks for sharing your story. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.